Hello there, Grumpy Old Fart here. I'm doing a movie review of the movie All Quiet on the Western Front. There's several versions of this movie. I'm going to talk about the one from 1979. That's the one that I saw. They actually showed it to us in school because it's a great movie. It's historically accurate and it shows the horrors of war. If you want to turn people away from being yay war, have them watch this movie because this is how war was fought in World War One, and it's ridiculous. This movie came out, like I said, in 1979. It is a war drama. It's a remake of a 1930 film. That movie, the 1930 one, is well worth the watch as well. I normally don't like remakes, but this particular one from 1979 is awesome. It's got one of my favorite actors in it, Richard Thomas. The plot of this movie is based on a really great book. The plot is a young soldier faces profound disillusionment amid the soul-destroying horror of World War One. He's supposed to be he's supposed to be on this great adventure, and it turns into an unfolding death trap as the war drags on. And this is told from the perspective of a German soldier. Okay? It's from the German side, the losing side of World War One. There's a scene, and they talk about it a lot through the movie, but there's one particular scene that really gets to me. They had in the trenches the dead bodies everywhere and no way to get them out because of the trench warfare. If you don't know what that is, there's a big stretch of open land. They call it no man's land, and each side of the fight, they've got trenches dug, and they fight over this one little back and forth over this one little section of ground. There's an attack and then a counterattack and then you retreat back and boom, and you lived in the trenches. And it's just you're mired in mud, and whenever a body is killed, when a person dies, there's no way to cart their body off, sometimes for days. And so they had what are called corpse rats, big, well-fed rats feeding off of the dead corpses. And they were all through these trenches, and they were just disgusting and gross. And there's a scene where they have their food supplies, of course, are running low, and they have bread that's so rotten and rancid that they won't eat it. They put it down for the rats, and the rats come in because these rats aren't afraid of the humans. They'll come right in and eat, right there in the same room with you, right there. They're not afraid of you at all. It's not like the house mouse or whatever that goes and hides in the wall. These things weren't afraid, and so the rats come in and they jump down there with their shovels and their knives and they kill the rats. And that sticks with me. It really, really sticks with me. Can you imagine fighting a war with rats all over you trying to eat you while you're shooting at the enemy? That just... And penicillin wasn't invented yet. So infections didn't go away very readily. It's not like you don't have to get a quick shot and be done with it. Warfare in World War One, as opposed to later wars, was a completely different critter. And I talk about this I may talk about it in another video. There was a man named Hiram Maxim. He invented the machine gun. Prior to Hiram Maxim in the 1880s, they had what was called a Gatling gun, Well, Hiram Maxim invented the machine gun, the Maxim machine gun, to end warfare. He thought it was going to be a weapon so terrible nobody would ever go to war again. And being humans the way they are, oh yeah, we got to have those, So they bought a bunch of he couldn't sell it to the Americans, so the Germans bought a bunch of them. They had their trenches and they had the machine guns lined up, and other countries eventually developed their own machine guns, but the Maxim was the first one. As a matter of fact, Teddy Roosevelt, when he was riding up San Juan Hill in Cuba, he faced Maxim machine guns. But getting back to this particular video, World War One, there's a particular battle called the Battle of the Somme, where Allied troops lined up and marched toward the enemy or ran rather towards the enemy trenches, and the guys up on the hill with the machine guns just mowing them down. A whole company, whole platoons killed to the man, slaughtered with machine guns, because they didn't know how to fight that type of a war yet. The Battle of the Somme lasted a month, and 1 million men died. It was a travesty. It should never have happened. And you mix that. I talk about this in my book, Drifters. You mix that with simple barbed wire. You string barbed wire out there. The enemy's running up to the wire. They have to stop at the wire, and they're trying to cut their way through the wire. They're all standing still. Your guy up there with a machine gun just mows them down. It's a simple combination, but it killed millions, and it's still doing it today. So when you think of the conditions of World War I, being mired in trenches and mud and rats and infections and God knows what else, low on rations, and then throw machine guns into the mix, yeah. That's just not any way to fight a war, but they did it. And kudos to these men who did it, because they were tough men. You couldn't do that today. Men today couldn't do it. I know I couldn't. So kudos to the men who fought in that war. Great soldiers, tough individuals. They're better men than I am. That's for sure. The cast of this movie, from All Quiet on the Western Front from 1979, the cast: Richard Thomas, Ernest Borgnine, Donald Pleasance, Ian Holm, Paul Mark, I think it's Elliot. I can't read my own writing. Patricia Neal is in this. Patricia Neal plays Richard Thomas's mother. So she's not in it for very much, but she is in it. And whenever I do these, I try to do standouts. Richard Thomas is one of my favorite actors. He plays Paul Balmer, B-A-U-M-E-R, Balmer. The story is told from his viewpoint, so he's kind of the star of the show. He is such a great actor. You might remember him from John Boy from the Waltons. He's great in everything he does. He literally becomes whatever role he's doing. I saw him in The Americans playing an FBI supervisor, and he did a great job there too. The man can literally do anything. He is understated, and Hollywood needs to do more with him, because he's just that good. And the other standout, Ernest Borgnine, he plays Stanislaus Kaczynski. I've heard two different versions. They call him Cap and Cat. His name is Kaczynski, K-A-T-C-Z-I-N-S-K-Y, so the character. So I can see him calling him Cat more than Cap, but either way. The character he plays is the wily old veteran who takes Paul, Richard Thomas's character, under his wing and teaches him how to survive. And that's pretty much all you can do in that kind of a war, is learn how to survive. If you can kill the enemy, great, but the focus is on survival, because you got more than just the enemy trying to kill you. One of the most important lessons that he teaches Paul, Richard Thomas's character, is how to sniff out a meal when there is no food. Every soldier's nightmare is running shy of supplies. You can hold a position with sharp sticks. You cannot hold a position if you're starving to death. A good soldier can make use of his surroundings. He can make deadfalls. You pull on a rope and the stick pulls away and the logs fall on the bad guys. You can come up with traps and tricks and different things, punji stakes, things like that. A good soldier can make do without a weapon per se, without bullets. It's not easy and it's not fun. Nobody wants to, but it's theoretically possible. You cannot eat dirt. Mud is filling, but it won't keep you alive. You have to have food. This is one of the most important lessons any soldier can learn. How to sniff out a meal when there's no food. Ernest Borgnine, in my opinion, was born to play this role. He did it to perfection. A lot of people don't realize how great of an actor he was, and he's just so understated, and he's been acting forever. He's just such a great actor. You it's one of those things, a great actor in a great role, and in this particular case, it wasn't just him acting. He was literally born, in my opinion, to play this role. He did it so well. So if you get a chance, check out the movie All Quiet on the Western Front from 1979. I want to say it was made for TV, so there's no sex and the violence is kind of cut down a bit, but you got to see it. It's a really great movie. You folks have a good day. God bless one and all.